It's the final Wednesday in July, and next month unfolds a much bigger celebration for us as Jamaicans. As we approach the Grand Diamond celebration, let's meet it with a healthy body. All I'm saying is that the things we can check upon and control through our routine doctor visits should be encouraged. So today, we'll see what government is doing to decrease non-communicable diseases and give some information to keep you ahead of the curve regarding other health issues.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Wednesday, July 27. The long-awaited 2022 population census will begin on September 12 and end on December 31. Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clark, made the announcement during Tuesday's sitting of the House of Representatives. The census, which was to be conducted in 2021, was delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic. The data collection process is being led by the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, STATIN. Minister Clark says over 7,500 persons from 9 parishes have been recruited as census takers, while training for another set of workers will end in August. He's reassuring the public that the census gathering process will be consistent with the Data Protection Act.
There are a number of data security measures that have been put in place to protect the information being collected. Additionally, all census takers are legally obligated to preserve the confidentiality of information collected during the census. Additionally, when the census is complete, the results will only be shared in an anonymized way. Under the Statistics Act, STATIN is prohibited from sharing confidential information with anyone.
In the meantime, Minister Clark says the 2022 Census Regulation and Order, which will govern the census taking, is to be signed into law shortly. He adds that a public education campaign will also be rolled out after the upcoming Independence holiday period. Censuses have been conducted since 1844 and are done every 10 years. All 7 zones of special operations, ZOSOs, have been extended for another 60 days. Resolutions for their continuation were approved during Tuesday's sitting of the House of Representatives. National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang, who brought the resolutions, revealed that there had been significant reductions in all major crimes within the ZOSOs. Dr. Chang also disclosed that as at July 23, no shootings or murders had been reported in Parade Gardens, while no shootings had been recorded in Norwood.
Similar reductions have also been experienced for Mount Salem, Denham Town, Greenwich Town, August Town, Norwood, and Savannah, which have recorded reductions of 64% and 66%, respectively, 29% and 47%, 30%, 27%, 56%, and of course 73%, 71%, and 100% in one zone, 89% and 67%, respectively. Cumulatively, since the respective period of declaration of July 23, all 7 communities reported 48% and 55% reduction in murder and shooting, respectively.
Mount Salem and Denham Town will continue in the build phase, while Greenwich Town, August Town, Parade Gardens, Norwood, and Savannah Lamar will continue in the hold phase for the period of extension. Also coming out of Tuesday's Parliament, Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says 3,609 Jamaicans have been employed in the recent cruise industry recruitment exercise. It was previously reported that the cruise industry is making a global call for workers following its human capital disruption of 90,000 workers. Minister Bartlett says while this continues, the ministry will ensure more Jamaicans are employed to the industry.
The process is continuing as the final selection is being carried through by the Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, and it is anticipated that we will have in excess of 5,000 Jamaicans employed when the process is over.
The tourism minister says another recruitment drive will be held between September and November to meet the target of securing 10,000 Jamaican workers. He says the recruitment drive is a strong indicator that Jamaican workers are viewed positively on the global stage. To qualify for the current cruise recruitment drive, Jamaicans must be literate and numerate, possess a clean police record, be in good health, and not reside on the north coast of the island. In other news, Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce Aubin Hill is encouraging exporters to increase their production as the country grows its way out of the COVID-19 pandemic. The minister made the call on Tuesday as he toured Red Stripe's newest plant expansion. The new plant now has large vertical vats to produce beer, a 24-hour production line, and a bottle recycling section. It's expected that Red Stripe's exports, which now stand at 26% of production, will be significantly improved.
It is in line with the objective we have in the ministry, where we must make a lot more products to export so that we have a world-class product here, best in class, and we can export it not just to the diaspora who are buying it and love to have it, but also to nationals of other countries who, if we're going to grow Jamaica, we have to export a lot more products to people who buy them overseas for hard currencies so that we can employ people in Jamaica.
And finally, the President of the Republic of Namibia will be the government's special guest as the island celebrates 60 years of political independence next month. In a release Tuesday, the Office of the Prime Minister said His Excellency Dr. Hage Geingob and his wife, Her Excellency Monica Geingob, will be on a 5-day state visit from August 4 to 8. The visit also marks 60 years of diplomatic relations between Jamaica and Namibia. During his visit, President Geingob will address a special sitting of Parliament, hold bilateral talks with Prime Minister Andrew Holness, and participate in the Jamaica 60 Independence Grand Gala. The President will also lay a wreath at the shrine of our first national hero, Marcus Garvey, and attend a courtesy call with Governor General Sir Patrick Allen. President Geingob's visit follows Prime Minister Holness's visit to Namibia in July 2018. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
While there isn't really a cure for diabetes, losing weight, eating healthy foods, and being active really can help. But as I'm not really the expert, here are some much more solid words from our Ministry of Health experts.
Diabetes is a serious chronic lifestyle disease affecting millions of people over the world and continues to increase. Diabetes affects how your body turns food into energy. It is a disease in which your blood glucose or blood sugar levels are too high, and glucose comes from the food you eat. Insulin is a hormone that helps the glucose get into your cells to give energy. Sometimes your body doesn't make enough or any at all, doesn't make any insulin, and so it doesn't use the insulin well. Glucose then stays in your blood and doesn't reach your cells. Over time, having too much glucose in your blood can cause complications. Example, situations with the kidney, heart disease, and so on. Although diabetes has no cure, there are steps you can take to manage your diabetes and stay healthy.
It is through lifestyle that we manage the risk of diabetes. Those behaviors include increased physical activity, a healthy diet, routine health checks, and strict adherence to medication. The Ministry will be championing the cause of persons living with diabetes. We have updated our clinical management guidelines, which is now available on our website, and we will be working on increasing access to testing through the introduction of point-of-care testing. This methodology of testing is the gold standard for monitoring and control of diabetes. Our agency, the National Health Fund, will continue to support persons through the provision of diabetic medication and supplies, and I encourage persons with diabetes to enroll in the NHF card program to access this benefit.
The person with diabetes should really have an opportunity to sit down with a trained clinician who is able to help them to understand the concepts of diabetes self-management, education, and support. There are 4 core areas the patient must begin to understand. How and when to take medication. That's the first one. If you take insulin, then you need to know how does your insulin work and how do you eat in relation to the insulin. Then there are the people who have type 2 diabetes, which commonly start off with education on activity and just healthy nutrition. And then we add 1 of 5 classes of oral agents. And then we teach them how to make food, how to eat food. Also, we think of things like target blood pressure. Is your weight healthy, or do you need to lose a little weight? And most importantly, how do you feel? What is your quality of life? All of this is what we focus on. Also, when you get your lab work done, what is your hemoglobin A1C? The target should be 7% or less. Keep that number in your mind. Diabetes damages the feet, the kidney, and the eyes at first, and then eventually we also find it can cause coronary vascular disease too. But for foot care, the person with diabetes every day, you wash your feet, wash them properly. Dry your feet, dry between the toes. Moisturize your feet, but do not put moisturizer between the toes. Make sure that you wear cotton socks, right? If you're going to have your toes cut by somebody trained who knows how to cut them. Examine your feet every day. Do not walk barefoot. Please, please, please do not walk barefooted, because if you injure or cause trauma to the feet, you may not feel it because your diabetes has damaged the nerves to the feet. And finally, when you buy shoes that are comfortable and that you can wear without causing blisters or trauma to the feet. Now we have research that shows that I can prevent the eye damage, the kidney damage, the foot damage, and the amputations by just keeping my blood glucose under control and taking care of myself.
There's no such thing as a diabetic diet, but it's all about how much I eat, the timing of my meals. So it's your portion sizes is what is important. Now, what we do recommend is that persons eat at least 3 balanced meals per day and small snacks. Snacks usually mean smaller, more nourishing meals, which we usually recommend that it be your fruits, your vegetables, or you can also use your nuts. Each meal or snack should contain protein because we need it to be balanced as well. Each meal should contain at least your protein and your fat. And we also want them to select a variety of foods from all the food groups. So there is some recommendations about the amount of fruits that you should eat per day. We usually say 2 to 3 servings. We want you to include a variety of vegetables daily. We also want you to include more peas, beans, and nuts in your daily meals. Reduce your intake of salty and processed foods, and to reduce your intake of fats and oils, and that of sugary foods and drinks. You aim for foods that have high sources of fiber, such as your whole wheat bread, whole grain rice, flour, more of your ground provisions. They will give you fiber, right? And that will slow down the rate at which your body breaks down the food, so you won't have a rapid increase in your blood sugar levels versus if you eat foods that are low in these added fibers. When you're having alcohol as a person living with diabetes is not to have it on an empty stomach, because it gives the risk of lowering your blood sugar. And also what we want you to do is that once you have diabetes, we do not really recommend the mixed drinks, so as to say, because they usually have a sweetened base. For women, it's usually you can have a drink per day, and for men is no more than 2 drinks. And what is a drink? Usually for beer, it's not more than 12 ounces. And for like a shot, is usually a shot, which is about 1.5 ounces. And for wine, recommendation is usually about 5 ounces thereabout.
several researches that have shown that physical activity, when done properly, for persons who are diabetic, again you heard it, allows you to use up glucose. For children, the recommendation is at least 60 minutes, 5 days a week of moderate to vigorous activity, and it must be a combination of muscle and bone strengthening activity. That's the recommendation for our children. For adults, it's at least 30 minutes, 5 days a week to get some health benefit, meaning increased circulation, reduced stress. And for the elderly, it's at least 30 minutes, 5 days a week. If you're a diabetic patient, these are some of the activities that are very good for you. Swimming, jogging, dancing, these activities, they're not very vigorous. You maintain them at a low to moderate pace, and it's a very effective way of managing and controlling your blood glucose or your blood sugar. If you are going to start a physical activity program, that you check with your doctor before you start, because if you have a condition, if you're diabetic, hypertensive, you have any other medical condition, your doctor will determine the intensity level, the type of activities that you can do.
Persons living with diabetes mellitus have multiple psychosocial issues related to diabetes management and its complications even before COVID. And there's an entity called diabetic distress, which refers to the negative emotions such as feeling hopeless, angry, or frustrated that persons who are diagnosed with diabetes experience, especially if they lack social support. I must mention we have the mental health helpline, which is 888-639-5433, or simply remember 888-NEW-LIFE, which is a 24-hour, 7 days per week psychological support produced by psychologists. When you call this number, they can provide emotional support for you. If you are feeling any form of emotional distress, they can provide support for you, and where you need additional help, they will direct you to additional help.
Our next feature zones in on a health issue that affects women exclusively. Here's all you need to know about uterine fibroids.
In a highly desirable world, hinging on some utopic idea, women would probably have been able to bridge the gender wage gap in workplaces.
Maybe our external appearance wouldn't be so important, and perhaps some medical conditions wouldn't have been so prejudiced against us.
But life cannot just be layers of what we conjure in our imaginations. It isn't always a working woman's Shangri-La, or our wives, mothers, sisters, or aunts' health ambitions.
In fact, there are certain health issues that affect women exclusively. Issues such as menopause, postpartum depression, uterine fibroids, and miscarriage. But understanding women's health concerns is the first step towards taking control of our own well-being.
Uterine fibroids are benign tumors of the uterus. That's in medical terms. In layman terms, they are masses that grow on the uterus or on the womb of a woman, and they can grow to various sizes. You can have one, you can have multiple. And the most important thing patients tend to ask is, are these cancerous? So benign means it's not cancerous.
Medical experts will tell you that the root causes may not be so clear, but there are certain factors that are most likely to account for this issue impacting women.
We believe a lot of women who have it actually do because of genetics. So if your mother or your sister or you have a strong family history of uterine fibroids, it's quite likely that you're at risk of having uterine fibroids as well. We also believe that they tend to pop up more so when your hormones are very active. So that's why it presents in those patients in their reproductive age. So once you get to your 20s, 30s, 40s, that's when you would expect fibroids to start to show up. It may be occurring in response to your diet. So if you have a poor diet, high in red meat, highly processed foods, very little fruits and vegetables, we believe that that impacts on the presence of fibroids and definitely the growth of fibroids.
Meet Raquel Bailey, whose unfortunate journey with uterine fibroids lasted for almost 9 years.
I was around 27, touching 28, and I went for my regular female checkup. When they did the ultrasound, they said everything was fine, but there was a point that he could not see beyond. So he decided to go do it vaginally. And that's when he found the fibroid on top of my uterus. I was saying to myself, it's hard. I'm not sure if I can get pregnant with it. I was worried about conception, of course, and I was worried about if it is cancerous or anything, because at that point I wasn't sure what fibroids was. I knew it ran in my family, but back then they didn't call it fibroids. My tummy began to grow, especially the top part, since it was resting on top. So my tummy began to protrude. And of course, when I had my period, the pain was severe. I had, to the point that I even had to lie on the floor to get a little bit of relief from it. Yeah, my clothes couldn't fit much because of the tummy hanging over.
The symptoms occur dependent on the size of the fibroids, the location of the fibroids, and also dependent on what else is happening to the patient otherwise, right? So common symptoms related to size are, if the fibroids are very big, then the woman looks as if she looks pregnant. So she notices that her tummy is growing, the waist of the clothes start to fit her a bit differently. She might start to have what we call compressive symptoms. Based on the location of the uterus, it can press on the bladder, which is in the front, and that's where your urine is. So you might find that you're complaining of more frequent urination. You're going to the bathroom to pee all the time, right? Another thing is that your bowel is at the back, behind your uterus, so you may get constipated. Again, because your nerves come from behind, from the spine backwards, then you can also have compressive symptoms on nerves around there, and some patients come with back pain. Because it is close to where the blood vessels go down into our legs and the nerves go down into our legs, some people complain about pain radiating all the way down to their legs, as well as swelling. If the fibroids are on the inner side of the uterus or within the muscle of the uterus, that's where your period comes from now. So those patients tend to complain about heavy bleeding. Bleeding that is lasting more than a week, more than the average period. They're soaking through pads in an hour, in 2 hours, messing up themselves, right? That causes a lot of social embarrassment. Not only that, but if you're bleeding that heavily, then you start to get symptoms of anemia. So you start to feel weak, dizzy, you might actually faint. Another symptom that patients can present with is pain. So if the fibroids grow to a certain size, then they start to outgrow the blood supply that comes from outer to inner. And sometimes they can, what we call, degenerate, and that causes patients to have a lot of pain.
I got married, and my husband and I spoke, and I said to him, all right, I don't want to do the surgery, have any surgical procedure done on me, just in case that they found more and they had to take out the entire thing. So I wanted to try and conceive before doing the myomectomy. Then I got pregnant in February of 2021. That's when the fibroids became aggressive. It grew and it grew and it grew. I looked so much like I was full-term pregnancy when I was only 4 months pregnant. So it was very aggressive. I was really sick in the first part of the pregnancy, so much so that I was labeled a high-risk patient. After having my baby, I went to the doctor to do my regular checkup. And Dr. Madam was saying to us when we decided to take out the fibroids. So I told her we were waiting on her. She said, no, man, the decision is yours. So I said to her, all right, maybe we can do it now. I was there touching my tummy. Because when I went in, it was huge, huge. It was like a full baby. It was the size, the fibroid was the size of a basketball. It was, yeah, and there were 3 others, so it was 4 fibroids. And she took it out, and when she took it out, she said everything went well, and my uterus, it's healthy. That's the word she used. The best part of my journey having fibroids is hearing that there are treatment options available.
So fibroids can be treated in a number of different ways, but really and truly treatment should be aimed at the patient's symptoms as well as what their future fertility desires are. Now, if you are having bleeding problems and the size of the fibroid is not significant, then we can entertain giving you medical management to try and maintain the bleeding to a level that is acceptable. So sometimes that involves using tablets. There are some NSAIDs that we use for that. There are hormonal tablets that we can use. There's also the hormonal injection that we can use to help to reduce the amount of bleeding that you are having. If it is that you are having a problem with pain and size, then that's where surgery comes in. A lot of the patients ask, "Why, doc, I don't really want to do surgery. I'm not ready to do surgery." And they ask if there's anything that can be used to shrink the fibroids. There are medications out there that have been used to shrink fibroids, but they don't maintain the fibroid at that size for the rest of your life. And they can only be used for a short period. If they are not so large but they are plentiful and they're causing you significant symptoms like your blood count is really low, you're frequently missing work, it really interrupts with your daily living, then we would recommend doing surgery. And surgery involves either removing the fibroids only, or we can remove the uterus in total. Now that decision is a big decision. If you have finished having your children, you don't want to have any more kids, then clearly removing your uterus is okay.
What I learned coming out of this entire experience is that I should not be afraid of my doctor, all right, or doctors in general. The gynecologists, they are there to help you. Visit them, have an annual or your regular routine checkup. It is to ensure that you have a healthy life.
We've been focusing much of today's conversation on health issues, but as we approach our 60th year as an independent nation, Vision 2030 becomes much more critical, and that includes getting to the goal of being a healthy nation. In today's Hear This, as we move forward, let's have a look back at some strides we've made in national health. Firstly, through the expanded program on immunization established in September 1977, Jamaica has made significant strides towards attaining universal immunization coverage for all children. Secondly, the infant mortality rate from infectious vaccine-preventable diseases has decreased significantly. The last recorded case of polio was in 1982. The last case of locally transmitted measles was in 1991. The last case of diphtheria was in 1995, and the last case of rubella, German measles, was in 2000. Third on our list, Jamaica made history in the 1980s when salt fluoridation of the domestic water supply was introduced. This contributed to a significant reduction in the levels of tooth decay in young children. And the final item on our list, the Jamaica Drug for the Elderly program, JADEP, which was launched in 1996, improves access to essential drugs through payment subsidies. Persons over 60 years who are suffering from any of the 10 chronic illnesses can access specific drugs free of charge. While we close things here, remember that much of how your tomorrow goes depends on what you do with your today. So let's make the right health choices. As always, thanks for today's half-hour invite into your spaces, and remember to look out for tomorrow's show. Also, please visit our website at www.jis.gov.jm for more information. From all of us here at the JIS, I'm Theodore Henry. See you soon.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.